This is Rene Enriquez. Nickname Black Hand of the Mexican Mafia. Prison gang politics.
Hey folks, my name is Rene Enriquez and you are watching Uncensored. Well, back to another episode of Q&A. We haven't done it for a while. And there were some comments in there and questions that really piqued my desire to respond. And this is a way for me to give back to the viewers, knowing that read every comment that comes in, every question that comes in. Obviously, I can't fit them all into an episode. So I just cherry pick. I go down the line. And there are so many comments. If you have a real question, the best way to get it to me is email at reneenriquezuncensored@proton.me. And I'll be sure to get the question. If I forget it in one episode, just keep repeating the question in email. I respond to the emails. I respond to the comments. Obviously, I can't respond to all comments because there's so many. And sometimes I'll see a comment and I approve it, it goes through, and then it gets lost. You know, I scroll all night looking for that comment. And I've done it before, particularly to the guys that want to talk trash or have something negative to say. I'll let those through sometimes. 2 rules on the channel. Be respectful and don't gangbang. If I perceive that you're being disrespectful or just trying to troll, your comment's never going to see the light of day. So don't waste your time and don't waste mine. I have never blocked anybody, but I'm not opposed to doing it if somebody gets out of line. But the comments are yours. It's for the viewers, right? It's a forum for you to engage in this stuff, ask questions, make comments, observations, and I find it entertaining. This is for you to know that I do read them, and if I pick a comment, it's because it caught my interest. No particular formula for picking comments, just the ones that catch my attention. I usually throw them up, and I try to comment to the old faithfuls. You know that we got some old faithfuls on the channel, right? And I try to comment to their stuff on a regular basis, right? So just keep commenting. You know, you're helping the channel, you're supporting the channel. I realize that not everybody can become a member, not everybody can buy the team a cup of coffee, not everybody can donate to the channel, but for those who do, we truly appreciate it. Every one of you is the backbone of the channel, right? Because without you guys, this is nothing, right? And somebody made a comment too. I can't remember the name, but they said 30,000 or 32,000. We're at 32,000 subscribers now. You know, we're doing this organically. This month we hit 1 million views. 1 million views, which is a huge milestone. And we have 32,000 subscribers. We have 1 million views, but 32,000 subscribers. Something's wrong with that number, right? Not everybody's subscribing. And I get it. If you don't want to subscribe, don't subscribe. But, man, let's get that to 40,000, you guys. 50,000. We can do it. We can do it this month. We can get 20,000 subscribers, maybe in a month or two. You know, we'll be at 50,000. And at 50,000 subscribers, I'll do another giveaway. That's my word, and that's my promise. And you guys know that I keep my promises, right? Unless something physically prevents me from doing it. I love giving away stuff to you guys. I don't have a lot of money, but, you know, as I said, the success of this channel is based on you guys, right? So, the first question is from All About Roxy. She says, Laura Shepard got my uncle released about 3 years ago. He was sentenced to 26 to life. She's a badass. He did 30 years. I wholeheartedly agree, All About Roxy. Laura Shepard is a badass. She's one of the elite parole attorneys in the state of California. She was actually going to become a parole commissioner. She applied for it, right? But she went to practice law and teach, and then now she's taking a few cases every year. So if you're fortunate enough to have Laura Shepard as a BPH attorney, right? They're not going to appoint her to you. You have to privately retain her, right? And she only takes about a dozen cases a year. She's whittled down a lot. Like she takes high profile and pick cases, right? Public interest cases or high profile cases, really difficult cases. Look, she's stuck with me for years. I did a couple of writs with her. The last one she did with the prison law office and got me out of prison, right? I mean, we had a battle. Like I was the guy that wasn't supposed to get out of prison. And if she can get me out, she can get anybody out, right? And I'd say that, I couldn't endorse her strongly enough. So for those out there currently trying to get their parole date, if you have Laura Shepard on your team, she's going to guide you. She'll help you. She'll groom you. But the real work is up to you. But all about Roxy, excellent observation, and I totally agree with you. Next question. The next question is from DF Slider. ¿Conoces este vato y lo que está explicando? LOL. I've heard this guy speak a few times. It's from the Pinta or something, or someone is helping him post his recordings. I've heard phone calls and these names, but curious if you recognize this person. The AFO 18th Street affiliation is well known to those that follow, but again, just curious on this person's view. And then you ask me, please do a reaction video, and you send a link. Well, I got to tell you, DF Slider, I do not do reaction videos. I think I know who you're talking about. I don't comment on YouTube creators, but some of the guys' stuff is outlandish, and I just don't do reaction videos. I don't comment on their content. I'm not going to join that circus. I am not going to join that circus. I'll watch the clowns in it, but I'm not going to leave that to the YouTube yarda, those guys that like to get involved in the drama and the controversy. I don't do that. Uncensored creates original content, right? And I don't copy or replicate anybody's stuff. And most importantly, I won't click on links, bro. So I don't know who you're talking about. I have an idea. There's a couple of guys that do stuff like this. And God bless them. I have no problem with them at all. I don't care what they do, what they create. I'm in my lane, they're in theirs. But I won't click on links for a specific reason. I got hacked that way. And I'd advise anybody that sends a comment to this channel or a email to me, I answer them all, right? I try to. But if it's got a YouTube, if it's got a link or an attachment, I am deleting your comment. I let this through because it's a YouTube comment, but I won't click on it because it could be a humbug, right? I got hacked that way, and it's not going to happen again. So just a word to everybody out there. Do not send me links. Do not send me attachments. Do not do that. I'm not going to open them. I'm not gonna click on links, and that's it. But that answers your question, bro. Next question is from Christopher Herrera, 2349. Thanks for your videos. It'll be nice if you do a video describing how your experience was seeing the change of times when you got out of prison. You went into prison in the early 90s, but you got out in the 2020s. How was it for you seeing the societal and technological changes from these two different eras? God, bro, it was freaking crazy. I went in just the other day, right? I experienced something, right? I went in and everything was different, right? Cell phones weren't around. Computers weren't that far spread. People acted differently. There's generational differences. Everything was different, right? It was just a different world when I went to prison. And just a little difference was the other day, my girl needed gummies, right? Because she takes gummies to help her sleep. And I went into this dispensary, right? It's like a marijuana store, right? And I was talking to the person first time there because I don't do drugs, right? But I went to get some from her, and I got this cream for her, this CBD stuff for her back, right? Because she had a backache, so I'm talking to this person, and they're just throwing all these products on the counter, like this is a gummy with THC and CBD and blah 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 blah, and it has this many milligrams, and it's sesame, and it's this and it's that, and I'm flabbergasted. And I told the person, I looked at him, I says, 35 years ago, when I went to prison, this stuff was illegal. You get arrested for it. And now you can walk into a store that sells nothing but marijuana products, right? So I'm still adjusting. I think every day is an adjustment, and I think that's the beauty of freedom, is that you recognize that you're free, and that you're blessed, and that you can experience these things. I feel like Rip Van Winkle sometimes, for some of you people who remember this, the tale. Rip Van Winkle was the guy that fell asleep and woke up hundreds of years later, right? And that's how I feel sometimes, right? But it's a blessing. It's a blessing, and I appreciate your comment. Next question from Alcaraz Mendez J. I wonder if Turtle got his parole. We're going to comment on that in another section. I took note of that question and wanted you to know it's going to be responded to in an entire episode based on parole. Next question. R-Mar-F9J. I think it's Ruby that you mentioned one time your name was. So, Ruby, if I'm correct, she says, I hate emotional roller coasters. I cannot imagine what yours was like. There's a reason you got released, and what a blessing it is to keep learning why. Keep doing this thing, Rene. I'm confident you're dropping wisdom on those who need it, allowing them to see things more clearly. Maybe they don't comment, but lurkers are welcome. Peace. Yeah, damn straight, Armar. Lurkers are welcome. You know, a lot of people don't comment. A lot of people don't subscribe. I get that. But a lot of people are seeing the message, right? And the message is not just the slow revealing of my life, right? But the possibility of a different life. That there is an alternative. There's an alternative to, you know, maintaining that status quo of being inactive or whatever, you know. And I got no beef with actives, right? I mean, they got beef with me, obviously. But I got no beef with them, you know. I wish them the best. Some of the guys I'm gonna do an episode on and give them some advice on the parole stuff. Well, I think it's almost a possibility for actives to get granted, but I think some of those men have matured and changed. You know, change is possible for everybody. Uh, and I think it's important. It's an important message, you know, that there's life after the mob. There's life after prison. That people can change, and even if you're not successful and you're not flourishing and you're not rolling in money, you know, as long as you have a place to lay your head, and even if you don't, even if you're homeless, there's still happiness out there. You know, there's an alternative life. There's something different than drugs and violence. You know, and that's really what the channel's about. Like, hey, anything is possible if you're dedicated to it and you put your mind to it. But I loved your comment. Thank you so much for it. Next question is from JJ92. How did Psycho not have to lock up after killing China Boy? Well, the literal text says, how did Psycho not have to lock it up for killing China Boy? Well, he did have to lock it up, bro. I mean, Psycho, Jose Calderon, strangled Juan Marcos Arias, China Boy from Artesia, Chivas, in the cell for no reason at all. He just got on a paranoid trip and killed him. And immediately, the Cardenales started politicking. He checked in right after that because he was already slipping psychologically, right? He was not stable as it was, and he slipped further since that point, right? He's in complete disregard now. He's in a dropout yard. And he did lock it up, just FYI. Jesus Rodriguez, UI1SR. What took you so long to realize that lifestyle was not the way to live, or did you know, but you still lived that life? Good question, right? I knew early on, like a couple years in, I knew it wasn't the brotherhood that it was professed to be, that it wasn't about carnalismo. I mean, back in that day, we had friends, right? Carnales that were your carnales, they were your brothers. Just because they call a member a brother doesn't mean he was your brother, right? That's the way it was. And they had an old dicho, an old phrase, a saying, right? That says he's a member, not a carnal, right? He's a member, not a carnal. That says a lot, right? So like Güero Shashrayak, Chuy Martinez, Chuco Castro, Danny Roman, Negro from Artesia. There were some guys that were my brothers, right? You could do no wrong. You could do no wrong. And they had your back. And they would go to the mattress for you. They would go to war for you. And they would defend you. And I love that about the organization. Those guys I still have an affinity for. Some of those guys that are still alive. And I still consider them my friends. Obviously, they may consider me something short of that. But you know, I still pray for them. I hope that they can find peace somehow in that life, in that chaotic life, right? But I knew early on that I was going to leave the organization. I just stayed in it. I think it was just I was so warped psychologically, right? That I wanted acceptance, and I needed it because I had such low self-esteem, right? So I stayed in until the point where I just couldn't stand it no more. I knew this is a way out. This is not a way out of prison because I never anticipated getting released, but it was a way out of that lifestyle, and it was a difficult decision to make, but I did make it ultimately. Next question. American 227. Have you seen the videos of Big Chispas? Oh, Chipas doing an interview about Pablo from AZ. I don't know. I know you don't do reaction videos, but could you do a video on AZ, your knowledge of and opinion? I know it's like apples and oranges, but they're ruthless as well. Yeah, I don't do reaction videos. I know a little bit about the Arizona Mafia. I think I'll do a video on them because I knew Pete Moreno and some of the other guys out there. But it's not really my forte. And I think one of the things that differentiates this channel from the others is that I won't go read transcripts unless I was personally involved in the trial or the investigation, uh, or I testified in a case, right? Or I knew the guy personally, or I have specific knowledge about that event, right? I'm not going to go reading newspaper articles and do global search and then pull up information and create an episode from that. I just will not do that. But I can do one based on my knowledge, and I will. It'll be forthcoming in the future at some point because my editor is overwhelmed. I want to do 1,000 things, and she wants to keep me focused
Squirrel.
because of the ADD I have. So yeah, I promise you we'll have an Arizona Mexican Mafia episode coming up in the near future. Next question would be Croteen 1. Did you have a laptop inside your cell? How long were you filming yourself inside prison? I can't imagine how strange it must have felt to get out like that. I had a laptop in my cell for a good 10 years, right? Not in CDCR. That's a misconception, right? When I was taken out to court, and I was taken out to court uh, for one time, I was out of custody for about 10 years. Out of CDC, I was just in substations all over California, being shipped from location to location. Occasionally, they'd take me back to CDCR. They'd put me in the hole, or I'd go to the main line for a minute. Then I'd come right back out for a few years on another case. So for a total of about 10 years. And I had a GoPro, I had a Scorpion, I had a Zoom recording device, I had a laptop. I had it all, right? And I was able to record. That's why you're seeing these diaries, right? And let me give some of the viewers a heads up, right? You see my face in some videos, and you don't see my face in others, right? So the ones you see in a cell is before my appearance change. So you're going to see all those videos as they were recorded, the raw video diaries I used to record, the audio. You're going to see my image. And when you see it, don't panic like, oh, shoot, he mistakenly let out his image. No, that was before my appearance change. So that's what you're seeing. Those videos, those video diaries, those are from a period about 10, 15 years ago, and some as early as 5 years ago, right? And or as late as 5 years ago. So yeah, I had it, and it felt weird. It felt weird. It actually felt weird going back to prison because I was used to being housed in these little locations, and it's a completely different world. You don't come out of your cell. You're locked in your cell 24 hours a day. There's no outdoor exercise. There's no religious service. There's nothing but your cell. You're in your cell in a substation somewhere in a city in California. They're not equipped to house long-term prisoners. They're 72-hour facilities, right? So I was given the equipment to do my work, but I used it for entertainment as well after my work was done. So it's really different. It just felt odd for me to be in prison when I went back, but I acclimated quickly. I know prison pretty well. Did 30 something years there, so I'm used to it. I did a total of 40, but yeah, I did have a laptop in my cell, not in the CDC though. Next question. Angel Dust 575. I know you like cigars. I was going to ask if you ever had or ever tried Deadwood Drew Estate. Nope, never have, but I'm going to now. Like I try anything, right? I like macanudos, I like cojibas, but I like little cheapies too. I like Oliva. I like Hoyo de Monterrey. I went to a place the other day and I bought some cheroots. You remember the I don't know if you're a reader, but I used to read these Louis L'Amour novels, the Sackets, right? Tal Sackett, Seven Sackett, all these Sackets, right? And all the Louis L'Amour novels are all good, right? And somebody in it is always smoking a cheroot, right? I think I'm pronouncing it right. And I went to this place, and it was a cigar, old Western cigar shop, right? And I saw them right there, and I bought a few, and I have them right here. I'm gonna smoke one, and 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 it just reminded me of the novels that I read, the Louis L'Amour novels that I read in prison. But I smoke a variety of different cigars. I'm gonna try these Deadwood Drew Estate. Thank you for the suggestion, Angel Just 575. George S. Kaplan. Uh, yep, it's not a first. Donito sure was quite the entrepreneur and expansionist at that. But territorial greed is a dangerous hobby in this kind of industry. Thanks for the breakdown and insights, Rene. Another banger. Well, George, bang bang, brother. Aim to please. But yeah, this entrepreneurial uh, escapade that Donito was on, and his attempt to expand his territories was really, really precarious, right? Really precarious because he does it everywhere in everybody's territory. Everywhere. You know, you don't see him talking about Weedmas, his territory, right? He's talking about Baldwin Park and, this place and this prison and that prison. Like for me, I never wanted anything to do. I never had anything to do with prisons ever. You know, I just didn't want to be involved in that mess. I didn't have meseros. I didn't have crew members. I didn't have not in prison. My stuff was all in the streets, and I kept it that way because I didn't want to be part of that chaos. And I honed it to my territories. Right, my territories were in my area. I had some outside of that, but they had nothing to do with other cardenales. Right. I was in Victorville before anybody was even around there. Right. I was in a couple other places that had nothing to do with cardenales. And then when I started having conflict with brothers, like, hey man, your guys are over here, and I have guys over here. I'd like, take it, take it. I don't care. I still have my stuff going on. My crew was still bigger than theirs. I was still making more money. Donito didn't see that. He was blinded by greed, and ultimately he was eliminated because of that greed. And and uh, and from the eyes of the organization, they did the right thing. Like this guy doesn't understand that he's not to do this, but he continued to do it because he got away with it. Great observation, George. Is from SNDYEGO, San Diego. I get it. I get it. Remember, I did cryptanalysis, right? I think that's what you're trying to say, San Diego. Not sure if you can answer my question. The mob attorney, was the attorney ever a mayor? Thank you. No, I answered this in the comments, but I think it necessitated a greater response, right? His name was Endejas, right? Chavez, right? He was indicted. Fortunately, he was acquitted. But there are other mob attorneys. There's plenty of them, right? Some that never get indicted. And I think that the United States Attorney's Office and the prosecutor's office are kind of afraid to indict attorneys unless they're dead bang dirty, right? They feel that, right? And I think one of the lessons they've learned in indicting attorneys is that it's very difficult to prosecute an attorney, as in the Chavez case, right? But there are dirty attorneys. This one was never a mayor. I never knew one that was a mayor. I knew that a city councilman who was indicted on an entirely different thing, uh, and it had to do with some type of inappropriate behavior, right? Uh, Not mob related at all. But but there are mob attorneys that actually they follow the allure, and it's like a moth to the flame, and they're destroyed. They get destroyed by it. One attorney who was caught up in that was Matt Fletcher, right? He was a mob attorney, but he was indicted for, I think, conspiracy to something with a witness, right? And he was disbarred. He was prosecuted by Francis Hardiman, but he was a mob attorney. He was representing mobster Lalo Martinez, and he was caught up in the allure. And unfortunately for him, he was disbarred and convicted, right? In the Suge Knight case, this had to do with the Suge Knight case. But there are, questionable attorneys, questionable attorneys. And I think you mentioned that you're studying. You're going to take your LSAT and do it. Don't get caught up in the limelight. Stay away. Run, run, run. It's interesting stuff. I know. It really is. There's some sexiness to it, and there's some allure to it, but it's a really dirty game, right? Thank you for your question. Any other questions you have, you can email them. That's the best way I get questions. I get questions that are emailed, they stick in my head, right? And if I don't get to your questions, just keep repeating it, and I'll get to it. Next question is Nelson Acosta 9117. Bro, before I watch the channel, I always go straight to the hype button and the like, and I leave a comment. Then proceed to watch the video. I had to leave an extra comment. This was a banger. She got cooked. These Mexican Mafia members don't care. They're in for life sentences. Why would you? Why would you? I don't know. Man, like it makes no sense why these people want to join knowing they're being used. You know what? First off, you said this was a banger. So bang, bang, brother. Bang, bang. Yeah, a lot of people can't afford to become members. They can't afford to donate for the purchase of coffee for the team. They can't afford to donate to the channel, and I get that. That's cool because you guys are the backbone of the channel. You like when you click, when you like, when you respond, when you hype, when you leave a comment, you're supporting the channel. I encourage everybody to watch the videos all the way through in their entirety, right? Watch them, complete them. We don't want a drop-off point in that algorithm, right? That's helping the channel. Even if you're not watching it, just play it, and let it run till the end. And leaving a comment, it feeds the algorithm more as well. 7 characters or more, that feeds the algorithm. There's a little science to this YouTube stuff, right? And you guys are contributing and building this channel. But to get to the question or the statement rather that you said, you don't know why these people get involved, and I don't either, because Mexican Mafia members really don't care who goes to jail, and there's no real money in it for these facilitators. They don't really make money they can pay their bills with. They may get a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there. It's the elevation in their status, their social political status. That's really what it is. People with low self-esteem, with not a lot of intelligence, get thrust into a position of leadership, and it gets good to them. It gets good to them. That's really the driving factor into why so many people do this, right? Because nobody's getting rich on it except for the members themselves. Great question. Love and Life 619. Great video. This really provides valuable insight into the work of these detectives do. It really does, Love and Life 619. I take it that's San Diego area. Not very difficult to decipher the 619 area code. It's kind of simplistic, right? Like interpretation of communications and communication analysis is really just kind of common sense, right? And maybe I'm entirely wrong on that, but if I saw a large collection of communications with the 619, I would make the connection if that is what it was. But yeah, I appreciate your observation. That was a great video. And the insight that the detectives do, right? There were some comments that they seemed like dicks, or that it was good cop, bad cop. I think the exact opposite, right? I think that they were being straightforward. I know Francis. I know both of these detectives personally. Mark Lilienfield indicted me way back when with John Stenson's wife from the AB for trafficking narcotics. And Francis Hardiman, I met him when he first started this, right? And I love both of them. They're great cops, good men, and that's just their persona, right? Their personalities, right? They didn't disrespect her. They knew that her intelligence was negligible at best, and that she was just really not the brains of the operation. They said that, verbatim. You're not the brains of the operation. But it gives another aspect also, because you hear a lot of stuff about people saying, you know, F the cops and, you know, defund police and all that. But what would our society be without cops? You know, all that active stuff about, you know, don't go PC, don't SNY, don't debrief. You know, but I dare say this: if they got out and they spent $50,000 on a car, and they spend $2,000 a year on insurance, and all of a sudden they come out in the morning and their car is gone, that beautiful Beamer or the $75,000 Mercedes or whatever it is, right? Even if it's a bucket, right? What's the first thing they're going to do? Call the homies and say, hey, homies, they stole my car. Let's take some street revenge and find my car, right? No. They're going to call police. They're going to call the police, make a police report it to the insurance, which is a requirement, or you eat that $75,000 loss. And nobody does that, right? God forbid they have to call the police, right? Police are a necessity in our community. Can you imagine society without laws and law enforcement? So, like, these guys, some of these guys are my brothers, you know? I have nothing but good things. Good things to say about these guys, but obviously there are some bad cops. I agree with that. In every organization and bureaucracy there is, but it provides the insight to the work they do to keep your community safe. And I think that was an excellent observation. Level Life 619. Thank you so much. F 30586. That's obviously a CDC number. I detected that long ago. I think I responded to one of your comments before. My first term was only a few years. Nothing compared to the amount you served, but I remember for months after I got out while sleeping, I began punching at my wife's arm or her back. Subconsciously, I thought I was back in prison and that someone was lying next to me. My wife would wake me up and calm me down. PTSD, brother. I still deal with it to this day. I'm 47 and I haven't been able to sleep through the night in years. As a matter of fact, one of my frequent nightmares is of me back in prison as an old man with no outside support, no contacts, no loved ones, nothing. Horrible nightmares. Bro, you're speaking my language right now. I have PTSD, complex PTSD, right? I have some crazy ass nightmares. Crazy ass nightmares. I kicked the shutters the other night. I'm sleeping on the entire side of the other bed, right? But I did some kind of kung fu 18-year-old karate kick, and I woke up kicking the shutter, right? I have these wild nightmares, bro, and they don't go away. You know, there's nights where I can't sleep. I'm exhausted, you know, and I lay down and my eyes are just open. I'm looking at Netflix or HBO or whatever it is I'm looking at, trying to find a documentary that's boring so it can put me out. But that stuff is real. It doesn't go away. PTSD is lifelong. The the I think it's just this. It's our brains have been hardwired, right? They've been altered by traumatic experiences so that our brain, our subconscious can't differentiate regular stress, everyday stress like traffic and arguments with the wife and bills to pay and stuff to do and press for time and being late in traffic. That's stress, right? Your brain interprets that as life-threatening stress, right? Then you kick into high gear with the nightmares, the hypervigilance, the exaggerated startle response, the free-floating anxiety. So it's real, bro. I think one of my worst nightmares, dude, the worst ones, is where I'm going back to prison in my dream, right? I wake up, and the first thing I do is thank God, Lord, it was a dream. Thank God. But they're terrible. They don't go away. And as long as you realize that, it's not going to change. It's not going to change, right? You understand that PTSD is lifelong, right? Anybody who's witnessed a traumatic experience, participated in violence, victim of a crime, whatever it is, we all have different experiences, right? Life experiences. But our life was traumatic, right? The stuff we saw, the stuff we did, brutal, traumatic. Some of the stuff we experienced as children, childhood sexual trauma, abuse, you know, domestic violence, all that stuff impacts us, right? And reshapes our brain. It reshapes our neurology. And it's real. I still go to counseling, bro. Counseling's been great for me, you know, because it led me to understand that, man, I can survive. You know, I'm not crazy. You know, I'm not tripping, you know. I mean, I am tripping, but I know now it's kind of normal to trip after experiencing the PTSD, being diagnosed with PTSD, right? But just stick with it, bro. Stick with it. I would suggest. I mean, if you're getting violent in your, because I did too, right? Separate rooms. Separate rooms. You know, you go in there and make the magic happen when you need to. But I don't want to be responsible for socking my wife in the face in the middle of my sleep. I don't want that ever to happen. So separate rooms, brother. You know, or get a big wall of pillows. Because that's what we did at first. Had a big wall of pillows in between. But that's so freaking uncomfortable. Yeah, I hear you, bro. I hear you. I feel your pain. I feel your pain. But but a lot of dudes, cops, ex-soldiers, ex-convicts, we all deal with PTSD. You can laugh at it once in a while because it's kind of funny sometimes, but it's a freaking terror, bro. And just know it's going to be here forever. And when you start feeling that anxiety, it doesn't mean that the end of the world is happening. Just breathe through it, work through it. I take two types of medications: buspirone and Visceral. Right? When I feel really anxious and I can't sleep at night, I just drop two of those pills and bam, I'm gone. Don't wake up druggy. They're not non-habit forming, and regularly prescribe for PTSD and anxiety. Just a little suggestion, brother. Tebow 519. As soon as I heard this video, I knew exactly what it was. I was the one who had the yard for Terco. Then Artie's crew arrived and attempted to take the yard from me. So a power struggle occurred. So Toker from Via Boys Pasadena agreed to assist me since I was in the hole getting validated. Toker worked for Donito. So we had our crews remove Artie's crew on the middle yard on D facility. D facility was active at the time. This brought back so many memories. Well, I'm sorry it brought back bad memories, bro, because that's bad stuff, right? And I'm gonna say this, bro, and I mean this with complete sincerity. You are exactly what is wrong with the organization. The mentality that it's one carnal against another and crews against crews. That's the organization fighting itself. This is when the organization started degrading. When camaradas were allowed to voice their opposition to other carnales having a yard, right? And I mean this with complete and utter sincere respect. But if you ask this question, who are you to question the authority of a Mexican mafia member? That's ultimately how it's going to play out, right? So when Terco gets it, like, well, who is this guy? Who's Tebow 519 to question my authority? And they're going to wash you up. And that's just how it works, bro. This is when the organization started, like really degrading. When camaradas started fighting each other, when they didn't understand that they worked for the organization and were not one carnal in singularity, but that their dedication is to the Mexican mafia itself and not to any one carnal. And really, this is a prime example of what's wrong with the organization, right? What went wrong with the organization, and one of the reasons why they rid most of the yards of mesas, right, when the carnales were released from the prisons. But it was a crazy time. I'm thankful that you survived it, bro. I really am. And now that I hope you're out. I mean, but if you're still involved, hey, more power to you, bro. My suggestion would be to run like your hair's on fire, because one day you will get caught up, and there's no escaping that stuff. But if you're out, I congratulate you. Stay blessed, brother. Stay safe. Thanks for your question. Next question, Albert OC 2046. You could be the most innocent person in the world. A prosecutor will make you look like the most heinous person. Always ask for a lawyer. I agree with the lawyer stuff, right? Lawyer up, right? But there are very few innocent people that I've ever encountered in prison. Like most of the people, all the people involved in this stuff that I'm showing you have been convicted, right? They are guilty. As I'm not invoking some moral superiority. I used to do the same stuff as them, but they were found guilty by juries, right? And received substantial sentences. A lot of them aren't even alive anymore. But I get that. Ask for a lawyer. That's what I would do. Like, I don't want to talk to you. I'm not gonna invoke my Fifth Amendment right, because anything I say can and will be used against you. Even if I invoke my Fifth Amendment right and you continue to talk to me after that, well, that's a violation. It's got to be suppressed, right? But later on, you can make spontaneous confessions, like like just stay quiet about your crime. That's what I would do. Like just stay quiet. I'm not going to talk to anybody or anything about anything, right? That's the best thing to do. But I wanted to touch on this. This question caught my attention because I've only met two innocent people in my entire history of being in prison and being in gangs and all that. And those are the Ruiz brothers, the Ruiz brother, R-U-I-Z, Victor and Hector Ruiz, right? So the Ruiz brothers are really the only two individuals that I know that were innocent, because I happen to know the guy who participated and actually committed the elimination of the individual they were convicted for, right? And those are the only two guys in my entire time in prison and my whole gang membership and Mexican Mafia membership that I knew were convicted of, wrongly convicted, right? It's not to say the system isn't flawed. It is. But I thank you for your question, brother. And that will conclude this extended version of Q&A. We didn't want to give you a 15 or 10-minute episode. We wanted to give you a long one today. And I'd appreciate if you guys would watch the episodes all the way through to their finality. It affects the algorithm when you cut out early. So wanted to give you a long one for you truck drivers out there, for you guys working and listening to me on lunch break or have your AirPods in and you're sneaking an episode in while you're getting paid. Hey, this is for you guys. All right, folks. As always, stay safe. Have a nice day. Peace out.
This is Rene Enriquez. Nickname Uncensored.